Senior members of the Trump administration will meet with Russian officials in Saudi Arabia Tuesday to discuss the war in Ukraine. The State Department says Secretary of State Marco Rubio, National Security Advisor Mike Waltz, and Special Envoy Steve Witkoff will meet with two top Russian officials to follow up on President Trump's call last week with Russian President Vladimir Putin. Rubio was already there for a separate meeting with the Saudi Crown Prince. President Trump said last week Ukraine would be included in peace talks with Russia. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky says he will not accept the outcome of any negotiations unless Ukraine has a seat at the table. Michael Bociurkiw joins us now from the southern Ukrainian city of Odessa. He is a senior fellow at the Atlantic Council. Thank you for being here. How significant is it for the U.S. to meet directly with Russian officials at this juncture? What does Russia want out of this? And what's your take on Ukrainian officials not being there?
Sure. Well, it's huge, obviously, because we're on the precipice of a reset of relations between Moscow and Washington. And let's not forget that this is the first known in-person high-level contact between the two countries since before the start of the war here in Ukraine. And, it's hard to imagine that we've come to a day where Russia is actually looking at the United States as a credible, reliable partner, and that they're also expecting a lot of things to happen. Of course, they're going to talk about the war in Ukraine, but they'll also be pushing for sanctions relief. They're pushing for lifting of restrictions on diplomatic properties in the United States, and a whole bunch of other things, maybe including even more energy sales from Russia to the West. What Ukraine, of course, is fearful for is that, some agreement is going to be made to end the war in Ukraine, but certainly not on their terms. The big fear here, there's two really, is one, that a lot of land that Russia holds and is on the verge of taking will remain in Russian hands, including that huge land bridge that the Russians took to connect mainland Russia to Crimea. But also there's a fear here that if Ukraine doesn't cooperate with Washington, a very erratic, unpredictable Donald Trump could do things like stop sharing intelligence information with the Ukrainians, and also, very crucial for people here in Odessa and elsewhere in Ukraine, lifting that Patriot missile defense system, stopping that from protecting Ukrainian cities. It's an extreme move, but we cannot rule it out.
You are in Ukraine. What is the sense there? What is the mood while this is happening? Is there a sense that you're getting that there is an appetite to potentially, dare I say, concede something just to put an end to the war?
Well, I think everyone here has come to the realization that Crimea is probably gone for good. And those, occupied territories, a lot of them are very heavily destroyed. They're heavily mined. They haven't been economically viable for quite some time. But I think the Ukrainians feel that after shedding so much blood, deaths of servicemen are anywhere between 30,000 and maybe up to 100,000. But that, they've put trust in the U.S. administration, and now the administration is turning their backs. And we've just learned, or beginning to learn, of the extortionate terms that President Trump is putting on Ukraine's mineral resources. As I said earlier in the day, I think tenants who might have been living in some of Mr. Trump's hotels or residences are treated better than Ukraine. They feel just really betrayed, thrown under the bus.
Interesting. So whereas we've had experts previously say that it's just part of President Trump's transactional nature, you're getting the sense there that they view that as extortion?
Absolutely, because we're talking about terms that no one else would ever present in front of the Ukrainians. For example, 50% of its mineral wealth, and pretty much in perpetuity. But I think there's also realization here for those who follow American politics that Mr. Trump is desperate for a quick win, and then he may act on terms which aren't favorable here. I mean, he hasn't delivered on North Korea, he hasn't delivered on Afghanistan, and he's also managed to upset a lot of key allies in the Middle East. So I think he's going to really try and move quickly on this and say, I've stopped the war in Ukraine, but what good is stopping the war here if it's only temporary and Russia will come back or go even further?
All right. Michael Bociurkiw, thank you for your time and perspective.